Snaps good, holds good, kick on the way by Conradi, end over end, and it is good! Kyle Conradi hit a 54-yard field goal, and Iowa State leads it 20-19! Oh my goodness!
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Iowa State Fan Perspective, brought to you by us here at Play the Fight Song College Football Show. Welcome to the third edition of Get to Know the Opponent, where I bring on the fan experts of Iowa State's 2025 schedule. And tonight, I think we have one of the more fun teams on the schedule this season, the Colorado Buffaloes. So who better to join me and to represent the Buffs than the Folsom Frenzy Podcast crew? Two of the four tonight. We got Chase and Topher. Appreciate you guys jumping in tonight. Hopefully we're ready to talk a little football. I know June's almost over, but we're getting closer to kickoff, fellas.
Yeah, we're almost there, 2 months away, right, from week 0. And thanks for having us on. We're excited. We're life. Kind of what differentiates us on our podcast is we're a bunch of CU fans that were fans before Coach Prime came. So we're definitely Coach Prime fans. Don't get us wrong. But we remember the Big 12 days. We're really excited to be back in the Big 12. Nice to see some teams we're more familiar with, especially some of the OGs like Iowa State. So I appreciate you having us on.
Absolutely. We got to appreciate the OGs around here, but we do welcome any new CU fans because I know it's a growing fan base. I don't know if there's a bigger growing fan base in college football right now. Is there?
No, and I actually live in Atlanta now. So Coach Prime is huge here. And it's pretty cool to actually see, Colorado was the forgotten school no one cared about. So to have so much of a fan base out here as well has been pretty cool.
Absolutely. Well, you can find these guys before we get started. Find them on X at Folsom Frenzy Pod on X, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you kind of listen to your podcast. I do got to ask, though, guys, we have the CU student section leaders of 2014 to 2018. So give us the origin story of how your guys' podcast and just fandom began in Boulder.
Yeah, it's I'll take that one, Topher, because Jake wasn't able to make it. It's interesting. Our co-host Jake is actually a closeted Iowa State fan because his brother went to school there and he kind of grew up a fan. So it's a shame he couldn't make it tonight. But Colorado football was in a really bad place, really, really bad place, as most of you probably know, especially after leaving and going into the Pac-12. And we had some really horrific seasons, including a 1-11 season immediately before Coach Prime came. But when we were there in school between 2014 and 2019, essentially we kind of lapped over each other. You couldn't beg students to go to football games. And so we had all grown up as CU fans. Both my parents went to Colorado. Topher grew up a Colorado fan. Everyone on our podcast grew up fans. And so we were there. We were excited to go to the games. And you get there and the student section is completely empty. So Jake, our co-host, who's the closeted Iowa State fan, decided he wanted to change something about it, worked with the marketing team at Colorado. We tried to make games more fun. We were literally bribing students into going. And so, it's sad to think about, but attendance is down across college football. And, that's a whole other topic for a whole other podcast. But it was cool to try to get people energized. And we were rewarded with it with a 10-2 season in 2016 that some people might remember. Our team just kind of popped off out of nowhere. We got to go to the bowl game. I got interviewed by the Wall Street Journal, all kinds of cool stuff. And so to have ourselves rewarded like that, and then immediately back to the despair that is Colorado football. So that's kind of our perspective. We worked with the marketing department to try to come up with things. We're actually the people that came up with we didn't come up with, we shamelessly stole the Iceland clap that got really big.
Sure.
And so, trying to make games more fun for students. And that's kind of our origin story. And then when Coach Prime came, we realized, there's all these voices that are talking about Colorado football that aren't, people that actually know the history of the program, don't respect how bad we've been, aren't really the voice for the people that remember all the times before Coach Prime. So we love them. Like I said, there's no hard feelings there, but we wanted to kind of provide that. So that's kind of the origin of both our podcast and, why we call ourselves the Folsom Frenzy.
That's awesome, man. And you guys, it's probably no better time to have a Colorado podcast and to kind of be the leader of that team right now. So let's just jump into it right away. And Topher, I'll throw it to you first. Year one back in the Big 12, got to be successful by all accounts, 9-4. And I know Iowa State and Colorado kind of got bit by the same snake in Lawrence in November. Iowa State just kind of became, unfortunately, the beneficiary of that and getting into Dallas. But from year one to year two, like you guys said before, where you had a 1-11 season, the vibe in Boulder's got to be at an all-time high, right?
It's incredible. The turnaround from 1-11 despair to, being able to sell our tickets at a profit, right, is a crazy turnaround. You talk about the value of a brand, but when you come into the Big 12 and we shock and by all accounts, I think we did shock the Big 12 of how well we performed this last year, right? The bottom line is, when we lost to Kansas, I think everyone on this podcast kind of had a sinking feeling. So we're riding a little bit high, and I don't think we've built the pedigree, built the depth, built the longevity to really be successful late in the season like that. So it sucks, but we are very, very excited for what this next year could bring. Despite the fact that we're losing some of our biggest names, Shador and Travis are now gone. We have a lot of guys returning, especially in that defensive secondary. I feel like we are going to be really, really elite still. And we've added some people in the transfer portal. And at the bottom line, you just can't bet against Coach Prime because all that guy does is win.
And I'll ask both of you guys this because I am curious. And I know that the program is in such a better stage than it was even a couple of years ago. But I am curious because I think Colorado fan base, between the OGs and the new fans, there's just all these different opinions. So I love to hear them all. So I'll ask you both. And Chase, I can start with you. What would, if there was a grade to give Deion's tenure so far, is it just a for sure A, or is there anything we're going to be a little bit picky about?
Yeah, it's you picked a good crew to ask this question because
you guys have different opinions. I know.
We've obviously discussed this at length on our podcast. I think it's an A++. Maybe sure. I shouldn't have gone first, but when you think about where Colorado was, right? And so everyone, I have friends, I went to grad school at Penn State, right? They give me a hard time about Colorado. And I don't think people realize the perspective of when you've been out in the desert and you find an oasis of any kind, it's an oasis, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think what he did, taking a program that was so broken, and credit to our athletic director, he did the home run hire, and he didn't know if it was going to work out or not. It could have absolutely imploded, but at least you talked about us, right? And so to go from being CU fans that had literally nothing to think or look forward to. And I actually, after Carl Durrell got fired, we went 1-11. I called Topher and I said, I legitimately don't think I can keep watching Colorado football. I think it is bad for my mental health. There's nothing to like about this. College football is going in a bad direction, and I still think it is. Colorado happens to be having a good time during a really bad time.
Makes it a little more enjoyable at a bad time right now. Gotcha.
But, I was like, maybe now's the time to just call it quits. So at the lowest lows. And so for me, I think it's an absolute A+. Topher's going to tell you that's a loser mindset, so I'll let him go now. But, I think you just have to be really, or at least I am very appreciative and thankful for where we are now because of him.
Sure.
To be clear, I am very appreciative of Coach Prime. I would not trade Coach Prime for anything. But if we're grading his coaching and just explicitly his coaching of X's O's football, he gets like a B-. There's a lot of clock management issues. There's a lot of offensive staleness. And historically, in the biggest games, his team has fallen short over and over again. And we saw it in the bowl game against BYU. We looked flat. We looked unprepared. We looked terrible. And so if that's a trend in the Deion Sanders, era and tenure at Colorado, I want to bring in extra assistants that can help us get over that hump, right? So B- for me, I love everything he's done with our brand. I love the way he injects energy and does it the right way. Like, CU just had one of the highest GPAs that the program has ever had. So it's not that we're just performing on the field, we're performing in the classroom too. And I fully believe that's a great way to build a program. So I love everything he does there. But from a football standpoint, it falls short just a little bit from an A+.
I love it. I love both of the different perspectives. I'm glad we got both of you two tonight. And that leads us kind of in a good point, because I do want to talk about this 2025 Colorado football team that's going to look completely different than what we've seen from Coach Prime's group in years 1 and 2. And obviously the main ones are your Heisman winner, Travis Hunter, and one of the best quarterbacks in college football, and Shedeur Sanders. So let's just take out the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the quarterback position first, because I want to hear it from Colorado fans, and I'll let you guys take whoever wants to take it first surely can, but we cover all 136 here at Play the Fight Song. So we've known Caden Salter for a while in his Liberty days and have had a chance to watch him quite some time. But for those who have maybe never even heard of Liberty football, let's say, what should you expect out of Caden Salter? And is he presumably the starter? Because I would like to assume he is, but obviously there's a lot of hype between Juju Lewis.
So if you want to take that first.
He's day one starter. I don't
Okay.
think there's any question about it. Barring any extreme circumstance, he's a true dual threat quarterback. I think he's going to add a lot of dimension to our offense. Right. I love Shador. I love the way he throws the rock, but he's a pretty one-dimensional type of guy. He's very good at making quick reads, hitting quick hitches, quick slants. I think Salter adds a little bit more of, make a play kind of Caleb Williams aspect, but much more willing to use his legs. And I think that'll be really, really, really exciting for our offense. Juju is young, even for a freshman. And so that's the part where I'm like, I don't know if he's going to be ready to step into that. College game is a lot faster than high school. So he's a phenomenal player, and I think he'll probably get some reps, especially early on. I expect to see him against Delaware. Hopefully we see him against Wyoming too early on, that we just beat him so bad we can get him some reps. But after that, I think he probably takes a red shirt his freshman year, and then next year he's the guy.
Yeah, all I'm going to say is that turns out we're only replacing a fifth round quarterback, so maybe it's not that big of a hole. But I do think I don't think there's any question Caden Salter will be the starter. I think he's dynamic. Anyone that watched him at Liberty knows that he can do a lot, and he kind of reminds you of Shador that way, right? Shador found a way where his O-line was literal Swiss cheese, but he found a way to make a play out of it. Now, I will say, Jake, you could have been quarterback. I could have been quarterback. With Travis Hunter out there,
sure,
anyone could be quarterback and probably put up some yards, right? But that's the big question. I think as far as quarterback step down, yeah, I think it's definitely a step down. I think Shador Sanders, very controversial. We don't necessarily think it should have been. They retired his number, right? So when you lose a player like that, really hard to replace him. But the big question, I think, is how do you replace Travis Hunter, and how do you replace him on both sides of the ball, but especially as a weapon for your quarterback? And we'll see. That's the big question mark this year.
That leads me right into my next question that I wanted to bring up. And replacing a quarterback is one thing, replacing a Heisman Trophy winner is another. But honestly, not only that, it went under the radar during his Heisman campaign and Travis Hunter that Colorado had one of the best receiving rooms in the country, like between Shepard, Jimmy Horn, and LeJontay Wester, like one of the more loaded wide receiver rooms. And all that production is gone. I think it's the Miller kid who's back, but what is there to expect? Maybe Chase, we'll ask you first. What's to expect with this new group in wide receiver rooms? Does Amari Miller take that huge jump to be the number one guy, or is there going to be like four guys in this room that can be trusted like last year's team?
Yeah, I got to tell you, Jake, I'm impressed. Your ball knowledge is deep. Anyone listening to your podcast obviously knows that, but that's one of the things Colorado, I think, kind of had under the radar is everyone was talking about Travis Hunter, but our wide receiver room was incredibly deep. Now, Jimmy Horn going to the NFL, but Omarion Mailer is absolutely unbelievable. We've got some young kids coming in. People forget Jordan Tyson, who's Arizona State's like breakout, absolute, like probably top 5 draft pick next year, was at Colorado when Coach Prime came in. And it's really hurt that we lost him. But I mean, there's a lot of talent at wide receiver. I think wide receiver is a place where we've recruited really, really well. We're supposed to, potentially have a 5-star wide receiver being announced here shortly. So a lot of things to be excited about on that end. Topher, Topher's more the X's O's guy. I think I'd be really surprised if we're not. We're not going to be as good with Travis, but I think on the average, I don't know if Colorado's wide receiver room is going to take a huge step back this year.
I'm in lockstep with Chase. We return a lot of guys that we did see productivity from, especially Omarion Miller, right? As long as he can stay healthy, he's going to be a difference maker. We had a true freshman last year that kind of played a little bit of that running back slot in motion type of gadget guy. Draylon Miller, he is also back. Cam Michael, which we were told at training camp last spring, he was the fastest guy on the roster. He tore his ACL in training. We didn't get to see him at all. He's back this year. Caleb Mathis had a couple of catches. So we just have a lot of guys that can do a lot of things and a lot of athleticism returning, not to mention our incoming freshman that his highlight tape is crazy. Yeah. So if he can translate to the college game, we're still gonna have some weapons, definitely not to the same caliber. But I also think, and this will be kind of controversial, Pat Shurmur's going to be allowed to be a little bit more diverse in his play calling now, right? There's a lot of film that we can go through where the offense they're running at Jackson State was similar to what they were running at Colorado. So that tells me this is a Shador offense, not necessarily Pat Shurmur offense. So that's another aspect that I'm really excited to see this upcoming year.
I think a part of that aspect is how can they improve on the run game? As good as the passing attack was last year, you think a decent run game at best could have resulted in maybe 11 wins. And so everybody knows about Jordan Seaton as far as that offensive line goes. But what is the situation like this year with this running game between the running backs and maybe who the offensive line brings back as well? Is there positivity in that direction?
I wish I could say I'm more optimistic. You see a guy like Cam Scadaboo, right? And what he does for Arizona State's offense. And then you go, wow, if only we had that, right? But I don't necessarily think – I don't know. That's the big question mark, I think, for Colorado this coming season is, are we going to take a huge step forward on the offensive line? I don't think so. I'm not entirely impressed by our incoming transfers compared to what we had last year, and maybe some continuity will help with that. Jordan Seaton's obviously a stud, but Jordan Seaton's really more of a pass blocking, left tackle. I mean, he's a true NFL prospect left tackle, but as far as pounding the ball and running the ball, I don't know. I hope it was daddy ball. I hope we get a little bit more creative offensively and are able to work in the run game more effectively. Honest to God, I couldn't even tell you who our starting running back day one's going to be. But it certainly won't be Charlie Alfredall, who's, the great story on the team. He was a walk-on, but was our starter day one last year. So it's one of those things like Topher talked about with the coaching decisions that Coach Prime makes where, maybe it feels really good and it's great for television, but you almost cost yourself games with decisions like that. So maybe Topher can tell me who our starting running back is going to be. I honestly don't know.
If I were to place a bet, I think it's going to be Michael Welch.
Sure.
I think he's going to be the power back. He's just a little bit thicker than Dallin Hayden. Dallin Hayden's probably going to be the number 2 guy. Dallin offers a little bit more receiving ability compared to Micah. After that, our running back depth is non-existent.
I heard there was 4. I think another podcast I listened to, there's 4 scholarship guys in that room. Like it was really, really thin.
Yeah, and Dallin Hayden's a Ohio State transfer who was supposed to be amazing, never really panned out. Michael Welch needed to get bigger. I think he has. I think Topher's probably right. He's going to be the starter. But yeah, I mean, and I don't know how that happens, right? Like, how do you not recruit? There's so many guys that want to play running back. I know it's not, the sexiest position right now, but it's a disaster, and I fully expect it to stay a disaster this coming year. I wish I could be more optimistic, right? We're supposed to sell our team on your podcast.
No, you're good.
That's not a place to be. If you're an NFL scout that's listening to this podcast, you don't waste your time scouting the Colorado running back room this year.
Well, we did our MAC conference preview last week, and I was doing research on UMass, and I think they picked up, I cannot remember the kid's name. I thought he was a Colorado transfer at running back, and it's like, I know he's taking Brandon Hood, I think it might have been. Augustus.
Oh, yeah.
See,
yeah, Brandon Hood.
I know you're going to UMass, you want to play more, but just from what I've heard on the running back room, it's like, well, if you just would have, because Augustus does leave, he goes, I thought it was Virginia, maybe. I can't remember where he went, but it's like, if you just stick around, you might have a chance this year.
More than a chance. Brandon Hood was our fastest guy in the running back room, and it by a mile. Like he's quick, but. Well,
I think that's good news for Minuteman fans. I know they were pretty disappointed in us last week for kind of bashing on the team. So there you go. You guys have something to be excited about in 2025 if you're UMass. All right, let's flip it over to the defense quick. I definitely think a group that took another step forward from year 1 to year 2 with Coach Prime, specifically on the defensive line. I thought they were really good. The defense, I think, is going to have to take an even bigger jump just because of some of the uncertainty that we don't know yet with the offense for Colorado. So what is that next jump, Topher? I'll ask you first. What's the next jump for the defense that you guys think should improve for Coach Prime?
I'm really worried about our linebacking core. We lost our best linebacker to Alabama.
That's right.
NIL.
Yep.
And so we brought in a lot of new guys. And that's just the biggest question mark is whether that group can help hold the run fits. I think our D ends, we have a lot of depth at D end. We have a lot of depth at defensive tackle. So I think once again, we'll have some pretty good defensive line play. I'm very excited about our cornerbacks. We're returning DJ McKinney and Preston Hodge.
Yep,
and those guys are going to be absolute lockdown studs. We got some safeties that we've heard good things about, but we haven't obviously seen. Spring game, they looked pretty good. But the linebacker is just the biggest question mark. And if they can't be solid, I'm very worried about our ability to stop the run, especially in the Big 12, right? This feels like a defense that's designed to play in the Pac-12 still.
That's a little Pac-12 dark action. Absolutely.
And I will say we kept Robert Livingston, so I think that's the biggest thing for us. For folks that don't know, or maybe your MAC listeners should probably be listening. Robert Livingston, defensive coordinator, came from the Bengals, but young, brilliant, has done, in my opinion, a phenomenal job with our defense. We were really excited that we got to hold on to him. We weren't totally entirely sure that would happen, and I think that's the biggest question. Is on one hand, you lose Travis Hunter in your corner, in your secondary. That's horrible. But you also no longer have Shiloh Sanders in your secondary, who was an absolute liability for our team last year and would never have started if not for his name being Sanders. I don't care. Tampa Bay ended up signing him to a deal.
I'm going to challenge this. I am a Shiloh fan.
Yeah,
okay,
because
I wanted to keep my mouth shut then. I'm glad I let Topher speak first, because I was kind of agreeing with Chase there.
Topher got to enjoy the two halves he played where he wasn't sitting on the bench after absolutely executing someone with a targeting call. But I mean, so I think that I truly do believe that's addition by subtraction. I maybe wouldn't be that big on slamming him on our own podcast because we've got Coach Prime fans we have to deal with. But I mean, that's the truth, right? He was horrible. And so it'll be interesting to see how that works. We have a young secondary. I think we're going to be pretty good back there. I agree with Topher. I don't think we're going to be able to stop the run whatsoever. You saw that last year. I don't see where we've changed that this coming year. And we lost our best player as far as stopping the run is concerned. So that's going to be challenging. Hopefully we can just play some true old school Big 12 or Pac-12 football where it's just you score 1 million points and hopefully you're the last one with the football. I don't know how well that's going to work, especially against teams like Iowa State or, I don't know. We'll see, I guess.
I think that's a great point to bring up our schedule. Let's talk about it as we kind of finish up things here. Colorado not shying away from week one, and they really haven't in the past. I mean, even North Dakota State last year was obviously no slouch, but at least you do get Georgia Tech at home week one, but that should be an ACC dark horse. Delaware, very new to the FBS, at Houston, Wyoming, BYU at home. Kind of a theme that I was talking about with the Cincinnati guys last night. Feels to me outside of Georgia Tech, like especially if you win that game, there's a lot of momentum to be building. I think 4-0 is a real possibility if you can get by Georgia Tech week one.
Yeah, I live in Atlanta now, like I said. I think Georgia Tech's a really good team. I think people are sleeping on Georgia Tech. Anyone who watched Georgia Tech last year should know that Georgia Tech I think Georgia Tech – I might bet on Georgia Tech to win the ACC, honestly. Like, I think they're going to be really good.
Not a bad bet.
I don't know if they'll be better than Clemson, but I think they're going to be really good, right? So why Colorado keeps doing this, when we scheduled Georgia Tech, that wasn't a horrible scheduling deal. When we scheduled North Dakota State, anyone who ever does that should get fired immediately. If he hadn't hired Coach Prime, I would have been calling for his resignation. But, I think Georgia Tech's going to be a hard game. I think we're going to learn a lot about this team that game. I think we lose that game. I think that's where our team's going to have to gel. We've got a new quarterback. We've got a new scheme. I think Georgia Tech's going to come in and just punch us in the mouth. But, I mean, to your point, right, even if we lose that game, it's going to be on national television. People will clown Coach Prime. But you've got Delaware at Houston. That should be winnable. And then Wyoming, right? Like, we should still be able to come out of that 3-1. From there, who knows? I think the over-under on Colorado this year is 4.5 on the betting lines. I like the over on that. Maybe I'm totally wrong. If I'm wrong on that, correct me. But last I saw, I think it was 4.5. So I think we take the over where that happens. I don't know, but this is a team in influx, right? This is a changing team. But Caden Salter, people that watch Liberty football should realize that's not a huge step down. So I think we could surprise some people. I think we're going to steal some games. I don't think we're going to compete to win the Big 12 this year. Definitely probably not picking us to beat Iowa State for your fans that are listening. Maybe I'll change my mind.
It's early. Yep, it's June.
Yeah. But then again, it's the Big 12, right? That's the fun part about this conference. It's wide open, right? Everyone had Utah to be the best team in the league. Absolutely horrible last year. So I don't know. I think it's going to be an exciting year. I'm really looking forward to this season. I think it's going to be very different. I have no idea what to expect. Topher, maybe you're more optimistic. I doubt it.
No, I'm optimistically at 6 to 7 wins, I think,
Sure.
this year. I agree Georgia Tech's going to be tough. And I remember the Georgia Tech, I think, was at Florida State, that first game they played in Ireland. And
Yep.
the thing you notice about Georgia Tech is they run the football, and they run the football really well. And that's our biggest question mark. And so I'm really scared that it's just going to be a grinded out game, and we might not get a ton of possessions on offense to even answer back. They might have, 7-8 minute drives, and we go 3 and out, and suddenly they have the ball, and our defense is back on the field. So I'm scared of that game. But like Chase said, I like coming out 3-1 into that BYU game. Hopefully we get a little bit more momentum, and that's going to be a late night in Folsom. And every single time there's an 8 p.m. kickoff in Folsom, it goes to double overtime. This is just the rules. So I'm taking the Buffs in a double to overtime win over BYU. You heard it here first.
I love that. I'll stay up for that. So you guys kind of answered it for me, but I do want to ask again, because I look at the schedule as far as preseason odds go. I think, Chase, you said it. It's the Big 12. So does this really mean anything? I don't know. But you have at Kansas State. You do get Iowa State. You have BYU. And I think I was missing another one. You have at Utah. That's a tough one. It just feels like, and then Arizona State. So you do have 4 of the 5 preseason odds favorites. Again, it's the Big 12. Who knows? Those guys could all be last place. We kind of saw it last year. But I'll ask you guys this. Topher, you can go first. You mentioned it. 6 to 7 wins. Is that a successful season? I know that's a step back from 9 wins, but is a bowl game just is a successful season in Boulder this year?
If we win the bowl game, I consider it success.
Okay.
Coach Prime, prove to me that you can prepare for a big game, coach it right, show me the clock management improvement, and then I can really start believing in, maybe it's not we have to turn off our Xbox after Colorado wins the national championship. Championship.
I am very happy you said that, Topher, because as a Pop-Tart Bowl champion myself, and here at Play the Fight Song, we have a hashtag that says bowl games matter. So you're damn right, you go and win the bowl game. Chase, same thing, like 6 or 7 wins. That's success this year.
So I think the problem is Coach Prime's whole model is he runs his mouth, he gets a lot of attention, and that's how he recruits, right? And so my concern is that if there's not more momentum, that the magic kind of fades. And I don't know if Coach Prime is the type of X and O's and recruiting guy that can necessarily keep a program moving and sustaining itself on 6 wins in a bowl game. So that's my big concern. Personally, I think it'd be a huge success if we win a bowl game. I don't think we've won one since 2002. I should have pulled that stat right before we got on, but it's been a long time. We've been in a couple bowl games. We haven't won one in a long time. I think I was 5 years old last time we won a bowl game. So it's one of those things that I would be happy. I think it would be a successful season. I wouldn't be upset about it. But, I've doubted Coach Prime on the win total every year the last 3 years, and I've been proven wrong. So, I'll believe in him. But, if my realistic, honest expectation, probably 6 or 7 wins. Any Iowa State fans that can come out, please check out the Sink and Boulder and stuff like that, because I expect the game's probably going to get pretty ugly pretty fast.
Well, that was actually, I have 2 more questions.
I'm sorry to keep cutting you.
No, you're good. That's my last question. I'm glad you brought it up. So we go to one away game every year. Tickets are bought. We're going to Boulder this year. I'm really, really excited about it. So Topher, if you're out there, I know Chase, you're in Atlanta, but if you get a flight back from Atlanta to old Denver, we'll meet you guys out there. But I got it. What's the one thing we got to do when we're out there?
So I think Topher's actually using my tickets to bring his entire Iowa State family out to the game. So
let's go.
You'll be in good company. But in my opinion, the place to go, I think it's worth it to go down to Pearl Street. But I would check out the Sink before the game. It's absolutely popping, fun, very different bar. But on your way into Boulder, for any fans, because I'm sure Topher will say something different, but on the way into Boulder, there's a pull-off on what's US 36, which is the road that goes straight into Boulder. And there's a beautiful view where you can see the entire town. If you get there before sunset, best photograph you're going to take of the entire place. It is spectacular. Highly recommend it. And if you don't know to turn off on it, you're going to miss the exit. It's not really a full exit. So that's my recommendation.
Sure.
I think you're totally fine if you want to stay in Denver and just take the bus into Boulder. Then you can explore, kind of get the best of both worlds, or go to Golden, check out the Coors Factory tour before you go. Win in Rome. Do as we've done girlfriend's parents live out there, so we've done kind of all the other stuff. But I was like, got to get to they're back in the Big 12. I told them, I was like, once they play Colorado, we're getting out there and we got to do something fun. So Topher, am I finding you? Where am I? What tailgate lot or what
lot am I finding you in October?
That's a great question. We kind of switch it up. We've been going to and parking at Boulder High School, and we've been kind of tailgating out of there.
Okay.
Just a couple blocks west of the stadium. So I think they charge $25 per parking. This last season, they'll probably have some inflation there, so expect 30 to 35.
But they're raising money for a school, so
yeah, exactly, right. And then if you in the stadium, we're going to be in section 212.
212. Okay, I think the visitors, they throw them in, what was it, 101?
The absolute opposite side.
102, right?
It's the worst
above
seat. It's the worst seat in the house.
No. But 212 is right above the student section. And while Colorado is a great and very beautiful place to visit, Colorado fans are not particularly friendly at games. So I hope that they give you a better reception than that. But they do that on purpose. They keep you away from the student section. So Topher should come visit you instead of you coming to visit him.
There you go.
We're guaranteed for like you said. And is this an 8 o'clock kick in Boulder? Are we guaranteed for that? Do you guys just get night games?
It's TBD, but if we are performing the way I think, like even if we come out of week 7 at like 3-2, maybe even 4-1, going into the Iowa State game, I think we probably get the late slot.
Late slot. I'm all for the late slot. It's the parents that I'm bringing down with that might have to have an extra cup of coffee or something like that.
And make sure you get in early enough to watch Ralphie's run. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
People tailgate too hard and then miss Ralphie's run. So if you're going to be there for a game, make sure you see that.
I cannot claim myself as a college football podcast host and miss Ralphie's run. So you guys hold me to that. Cam texted me this, so I have to mention it. It was a good question. This is the last one. I promise. Appreciate you guys' time. The turf field, the new turf field. Do we like it?
No, and the reason I'm so opposed to it is David Bakhtiari is one of the best Colorado players ever, played in the NFL for a million years, although he was hurt half the time. Huge advocate against turf fields. And then Colorado turns around and does a turf field. They're claiming it's supposed to be safer. It definitely looks a hell of a lot better. It looks beautiful. What a stupid thing to do for player safety. I'm super against it. I tend to think it was probably an environmental thing, which is something that Boulder, Colorado just really gets up in arms about. And there's no water in Colorado, right? So I get it. There is no water in Colorado, but really bad decision, in my opinion, for player safety. Just not worth it. But that's my opinion. I would be astonished if Topher disagrees with me on that.
No, I'm 100% on the same page. And it was one of the things that I really held on to why I love Folsom is we were one of the last real grass fields in the conference. Now that's gone. And the other thing that sucks is this year we don't even have a drought. We've had more rain here than Washington the past month, and it's asinine. There's grass growing everywhere. So
another Jack Trice Stadium feels like one of the last natural grass fields left. We're losing brothers by the year at this point, but I'm glad you guys put your opinion on that. All right. This was fun. Really appreciate you guys hopping on. I'm really excited to get out to Boulder this year. Excited to have Colorado back in the Big 12. This really should be in another exciting year in the Big 12 where kind of the theme at this point, first place, you could very well be last. And I think anybody has a chance to win this conference, even if 6 wins is your expectation. So appreciate you guys hopping on. You guys can go find Chase and Topher at Folsom Frenzy Pod on X. You can find their podcast on YouTube, subscribe to their channel, go find them on Spotify, wherever you guys get your podcast from. Subscribe to us here, like the video. If you're a Colorado fan, let us know in the comments. We'd love to get out there and shake some hands in Boulder in early October. So really appreciate you guys' time. And we'll be rooting for the Buffs this year, except for on October 11th. So
awesome. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks, guys.
You.